Some days feel strangely distant. You wake up, you move through your routine, you answer messages, you complete tasks, you go where you're supposed to go. From the outside, everything looks normal. But inside, something feels slightly removed, almost like life is continuing and you're somewhere just behind it. Not gone, not completely numb, just not fully there. Moments pass, conversations happen, hours move forward, yet part of you feels like it's watching rather than living. And the confusing part is this: nothing dramatic had to happen for this feeling to appear. It can arrive quietly, so quietly that one day you suddenly notice it and think, when did I start feeling this far away from my own life? If this feeling is familiar, it can be unsettling. Not because something is obviously wrong, but because it's hard to explain. You're still functioning, you're still showing up, you're still doing the things your life requires. But the sense of being fully present feels thinner than it used to. And that can create a quiet question in the background of your mind. Why do I feel so disconnected? What's important to understand is that this experience is far more common than most people realize. Many people move through periods where their inner world becomes quieter, more distant, or slightly muted. It doesn't mean you've lost something important. It doesn't mean you're broken. And it doesn't mean you're the only one who has felt this way. Sometimes the mind adjusts its level of presence when life has been asking a lot from it. Not as a failure, but as a way to keep moving forward when things have been heavy, fast, or overwhelming for a long time. And even if the distance feels confusing, there is usually a quiet reason your mind shifted into this mode. The experience often shows up in small, ordinary moments. You might go through an entire morning routine and barely remember it afterward. You brush your teeth, make coffee, check your phone, get dressed. But it feels like the actions happened automatically, almost like your body moved through the steps while your awareness stayed somewhere slightly behind. Days can begin to blend together this way. Monday feels similar to Thursday. Last week feels strangely close to yesterday. Not because nothing happened, but because very little of it felt fully registered. Conversations can feel like this too. You're listening, you're responding, you're saying the right things, yet part of you notices a small distance inside, like you're participating, while another quiet part of your mind is simply observing the moment unfold. Sometimes emotions feel softer or muted, not gone, just less vivid than they used to be. Things that once felt exciting, frustrating, funny, or deeply meaningful might now pass through you with a lighter emotional imprint. And that can make life feel slightly unreal, like watching your own routine from the outside. But this state doesn't appear randomly. Even if it feels mysterious, it usually forms slowly through experiences that asked more from you than you realized at the time. This kind of distance rarely appears overnight. Most of the time, it builds slowly, almost invisibly. Life asks for your attention in many directions at once. Responsibilities, decisions, conversations, expectations. Some of them are obvious, others sit quietly in the background, asking for energy every day. Over time, the mind learns something important. It learns how to keep moving forward even when its emotional reserves are getting low. One way it does this is by softening the intensity of experience, not shutting life off, just lowering the volume. When emotions, stress, or pressure stay high for long periods, the mind sometimes creates a little space between you and everything that's happening, a small buffer, a slight distance, enough to keep you functioning without becoming overwhelmed. And the strange thing is, this adjustment can be so subtle that you don't notice it happening. You only notice it later, when a quiet thought appears one day. Something like, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. But even in this quieter state, something important is still happening inside you. Because the part of you that can notice this feeling has never actually left. Even when life feels distant, small moments of awareness still appear. They're easy to miss, but they happen more often than you might realize. It might be a brief pause while you're walking somewhere. For a second, you notice the temperature of the air or the sound of something in the distance. Nothing dramatic happens, yet for that short moment, you feel slightly more present. Then the feeling fades again. Sometimes it shows up as a sudden realization. You're in the middle of doing something routine and a thought quietly appears. I've been on autopilot. That single moment of noticing is important because the part of you that can observe your own experience is still active, still awake. Sometimes the signal is even simpler. A small emotional reaction, a song that unexpectedly reaches you, a sentence you read that lingers longer than usual, or the quiet reason you clicked on this video in the first place. Something in you recognized this feeling. Something in you wanted to understand it. And those small moments of recognition are not meaningless. They are often the first quiet signs that presence hasn't disappeared. It's simply been resting beneath the surface. When presence starts returning, it rarely happens all at once. There isn't usually a dramatic moment where everything suddenly feels vivid again. Instead, it begins in very small ways. Moments that last only a few seconds. You might notice a detail you normally pass by. The sound of someone laughing nearby. The texture of something in your hands. The color of the sky when you weren't even planning to look up. For a brief moment, something feels slightly clearer. Then the feeling fades again. This is normal. Presence tends to return the same way it left. Gradually, quietly, without announcing itself. Your mind is constantly adjusting to how safe and manageable the world feels. When things have been overwhelming for a long time, it learns to keep some distance. But when small moments of calm begin appearing again, the mind slowly loosens that distance, little by little. You may not even notice the change at first, but those brief seconds of awareness start connecting together. A few seconds today, a few more tomorrow, until eventually, moments of real presence begin lasting longer than they used to, and something inside you starts remembering how it feels to truly be here again. It's easy to interpret this kind of distance as a personal failure, to assume something inside you has faded or disappeared, but that isn't usually what's happening. Most of the time, this state is not a loss. It's an adaptation. A way the mind continues functioning when life has been demanding more energy than usual. Instead of stopping completely, it adjusts how deeply it experiences things, just enough to keep moving, just enough to keep going. Seen this way, the autopilot feeling is not evidence that you lost yourself. It's evidence that your mind was trying to protect the parts of you that were getting tired. The distance was never meant to be permanent. It was more like a pause, a quieter mode of existing while your system carried weight it didn't fully know how to process yet. And pauses like this are surprisingly common in human life. Many people move through them, often without ever talking about it. If life has felt distant lately, there is one small thing worth noticing. You became aware of it. Somewhere along the way, a quiet realization appeared. a moment where you recognize that something felt different inside your own experience. That awareness matters, because the part of you that can notice distance is also the part that remains present, even if the feeling of connection has been softer. Even if some days still feel automatic, you are not completely outside your life. You're still here, observing it, still noticing, still reflecting. And sometimes that quiet awareness is the very beginning of returning. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, just slowly, through small moments that begin to feel real again. A sound that holds your attention, a thought that lingers longer than usual, a moment where you realize you are actually here. And if today still feels quiet or distant, that's okay too. Because even this moment, the one where you're listening right now, is still a moment you are part of. If a single word describes how today feels for you, you're welcome to leave it below.